Hey there, and welcome to this new series. It's going to be about 5 coding projects that I'm currently working on. So the first one that I decided to start with is the podcast translation one. It's basically just going from Japanese audio, transcribing it, translating it, and then using AI and a couple of other things to output audio files that have the Japanese audio and then the English translation, and then the other way around, the English translation and then the Japanese audio for different purposes, but essentially for studying. And we could obviously do this for any language. And you might decide to also use it for whatever language you might be studying. I think it could be pretty cool for that. Let's go ahead. I'm just going to start it right here. This is a project that I've built before, built it a couple of months back. So part of the code I wrote, which is terrible, and then part of the code was written by AI, which is also equally terrible. So now we're just going to let the AI basically write everything, because I think it's gotten to the point where it's going to be good enough, right? This is not going to be a production application or anything like that. It's just for my use and for you guys to see how I kind of put some of this together, get some ideas. If you've never used AI to code anything, this might be kind of interesting. And it might inspire you to start your own projects or even to just download this one and use it with whatever language you're studying. So let's just think a little bit about what we want to do. One of the main issues that people that try to use AI to code things will run into is that they jump straight into ChatGPT or Claude or whatever IDE that has AI, and we'll just start asking the AI to do something. And the problem with that is that there are just too many unknowns for the thing to actually work correctly. So to avoid that, we're going to be starting with a little plan. So what is the goal? We want to build an app that takes audio MP3s as input, transcribes audio, translates it, generates new audio files, run the translation and transcription, and outputs them as MP3 files. That's basically it. That's what we're trying to build here. So some of the unknowns about this, I've never put together something quite as complex. The initial version was just a Python script, and that worked pretty well. But this time, like I said, I want to wrap it around an actual user interface that isn't just command line based. So the question for me is, how do I connect my Python script to some sort of a front end? And like I said, it doesn't even have to be hosted anywhere. That's a project for another day. I would really just like it to open up locally and just that it has a nice interface and I can drop the files in there. It does the thing and it spits out the files, but that I don't have to deal with the command line for this. So the question is, how do we connect Python script to a front end? And that might even be the wrong question to ask. I'm assuming that there's a simple way to do that, and there might not be. So we'll just find out as we go. And also, what APIs do we need? I know that previous time I did this, I used whatever OpenAI was serving. I don't even remember what version of ChatGPT or which transcription API they had. I think they might have something for audio. We'll check that in a moment. We definitely need something for translation. And I don't know what the best option for that would be. In the end, I ended up using just all the different APIs that OpenAI had because I had already set it up. So it was just easy to connect one to the next step. This time we might optimize it a bit so that we actually get a model that's better at translation. And might be an OpenAI model. I don't know. We'll check that in a moment. Not sure which is best for translation. And then for the audio output, the last time I did this, I think I ended up using whatever the recommended Python audio generation package was, or I think we might have used something like whatever the operating system uses to generate. I don't really remember. Obviously, there are much better options for generating really high quality audio outputs. Based on what I've seen, they tend to be pretty expensive, but maybe we could find one that's reasonable. Otherwise, we'll just have to use a Python package or maybe use whatever the browser's native audio generation API is. So I'm not sure about this part yet. Maybe Python package, maybe expensive API, who knows? Okay, so audio, translation, this is transcription. Okay. And now let's also put some tasks here because otherwise we're going to end up with a big old mess of me prompting back and forth and not remembering where I am. So I want to remember roughly what we need to do here. The first thing I would do is just answer these questions. And I'm sure there are more that I'm missing, but we need something to get started. So answer my questions. Next, we want to put together some sort of a spec or a document for the AI to use. And then we'll also want to come up with some tasks based on the spec for the AI. And then get to vibing. All right. So first things first, these questions here. All right. So let's open up a new tab. I'm just going to go to ChatGPT because it's the quickest thing and it's generally pretty good. If it doesn't work, we'll just switch to something else. So the first question here is, how do we connect a Python script to a front end? So can we actually do that easily? Let's explain a little bit more. I have a Python script. I want to have a nice front end. Is there a better way to do that? It's only for my use, so it doesn't need to be hosted anywhere. Let's see what we get. All right. Okay. Simple desktop app, fastest to get running. Now, the thing about this first suggestion that it gives me is it's recommending Takinter. I never know how to pronounce this. Takinter, I guess. And it's built into Python. It's got buttons and things. I think I've also tried PyQt. And at least the last times I tried to use them, they were pretty difficult to work with. I was writing all the code myself, so that probably has a lot to do with it. Now, with the help of AI, it might be pretty simple. But I would also like to see if we could can we just use HTML and CSS? That's the thing I'm most familiar with, and it's easy to tweak if I don't like. So we'll see. Local app. Okay. I could use Flask. I've heard of that. Never tried it. Okay, maybe Flask. What in the world? Okay. No Electron. No. Okay. So I think we might want to try Flask. So Flask. What is Flask? Okay. Seems like it's what we want to do. Okay. So now we go back and then let's just update this. Flask. What else? Oh, we can just use HTML, CSS, all that good stuff. Okay. And then we've got our APIs. Let's look at the costs of some of these. So we need something for transcription. I don't remember what I used for transcription, but let's go ahead and check the OpenAI models because I'm pretty sure one of these would be good. Okay, let's log in. All right, so now let's look at the models. And let's see here. Voice agents, transcribe audio. Here we go. Because there's GPT-4o mini transcribe and GPT-4o transcribe. All right, and where do we actually see the models? I think that's where we were. Let's see, frontier models, specialized models. Okay, so we've got two speech-to-text models, mini and regular. Let's look at pricing for just a second. So this is mini, $1.25 in, $5 out, $2.50, $10 out. I have a feeling there's not going to be that much of a difference based on my previous experience. We're already pretty good. So we'll just use GPT-4o Mini. And if it is not good enough, we'll just swap it out. Okay. So for transcription, we'll use this guy. For translation, now this is one where I think there might be a way to check this. So there's this service called OpenRouter. If you've ever used any of these AI models, you know what this is. It's basically like a one-stop shop for all the different AIs with one API. So you can access all of them. You don't have to set up accounts with all the different providers if you want to use OpenAI's models, if you want to use Anthropic's models or all the different smaller models. You don't have to create accounts for those. You can just create one account here and access all. It's a little bit more expensive, but it gives you that freedom to just very quickly experiment and play with a bunch of different things. So the thing that I actually want to check here is the rankings, because they basically keep track of all the different models being used in different applications and through different providers. And it's kind of interesting because you can see how they're grouped by category. So for example, here's categories programming, and we can see that this is for yesterday, which models are being most used based on the number of tokens. And that can kind of give us an idea of which are the most popular models, obviously also based on costs and things like that. But let's switch it over from programming to translation. So let's see here. Whoa, okay. It seems like Gemini 1.5 Flash, 8 billion parameters, has been the king for a while, and it is being dethroned by Gemini 2.0 Flash. Okay. And then we can also see like the different apps where that's being used. Interesting that some of them are coding applications, but also like the role-playing things, agents, character creation things. Okay, so it seems like the favored one is 2.0 Flash, and that's probably due to the cost. Yeah, okay, that's a crazy inexpensive cost. 10 cents per million input tokens, 40 cents per million output tokens. That's wild. Okay, and it's also number one in a bunch of different other categories. So that's pretty interesting. Okay. Now I also wonder, I mean, this is just based on the cost, it seems like this is a great option to go with. I'm wondering how accurate is it, because I'm sure, or no, I'm assuming that there are probably other models that are more accurate but are more expensive. This is probably being used because it's just very cheap to translate a lot of content. So is there a way to check that? Let's see. Let's just open up this thing. By the way, I'm in the Dia browser. If you used Arc before, it's a little bit like Arc, except it also has AI. It connects, I think, to OpenAI models. So this is just the thing that I would get in ChatGPT, except it's a little bit more convenient because it's in a tab. So let's just ask here, how can I find which are the most accurate models for translation? Is there some sort of ranking or benchmark? Okay, what do we have here? WMT24 Conference on Machine Translation. Leading global benchmark for translation models. Okay. 3.5 Sonnet. GPT-4. Gemini. Okay, this is well, I mean, AI is moving pretty quickly. It's talking about Gemini 1.5, right? We're well past that. Okay. So maybe 3.5 is our best option. Although, now we're up to 4. Is 3.5 still offered? No. Okay. No, wait, it is. It probably is. They just probably don't want you to use it as much. I'm going to assume then Claude 4 Sonnet is probably going to be good enough. It's from the same family. Unless something crazy happened with the way that they're generating these models, it's probably going to be good enough. So we'll just stick with Claude 4 Sonnet. Okay. Translation. Claude 4 Sonnet's fine. And now the best part, the audio output. So what do we want to do about this? Let's take a look at the costs. For simplicity's sake, we'll just go back to OpenAI because we're going to use one of their models. Might as well just use another one of their models if it's reasonably priced. Remember, these are podcasts, so some of these could be 20 minutes, half an hour, 2 hours. So it starts to become quite expensive. It's worth considering the costs here. So we've got, is this their only one? It's interesting that they don't, it seems like they don't have another, oh no, they've got a bunch. Okay. We'll go text to speech, and they've got GPT-4o mini, text to speech 1. I'm going to guess this is an older version, an older model, and then this is their HD version. Because they're not, yeah, $30, just $30. Okay, maybe this is a little bit outdated. So it seems like we're going to use we would choose the GPT-4o mini text to speech. Let's see. Input, cheap, output. I'm going to assume, oh no. And how is the output calculated? Yeah, it's $12 per, okay. Per 1 million audio tokens. What is the difference between an audio token and a regular text token? Don't know. We'll put it as an option. And then we'll just, it's 60 cents in, $12 out. We'll do another. Ask the machines for their recommendation. There's some good, inexpensive text to speech APIs. Okay, Unreal Speech. I don't think I've heard of this one. Unreal Speech. Lemon Fox AI. Charging about $2.50 per million characters, roughly 1,000 minutes of speech. It's not bad. Not heard of this one. Speechify. That's big. That's a pretty big difference. Yeah, here we go. I was going to say, one of the big names that I'm not seeing here are 11 Labs. 11 Labs is pretty expensive, and they also, yeah, it's just subscription based. And then you top it up. Last time I looked into it, it was kind of expensive to get started with. So let's see if we could just either go with whatever OpenAI's text-to-speech model is, or one of these. We'll just take a quick look at these. Fast and affordable text-to-speech. Okay, well, I know who their competitor is. And then let's look at the pricing. It is, yeah, I'm not a fan of the per month pricing for this because I'm not gonna, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, I guess it just doesn't make sense for them to offer it in a different way. And I don't want to do anything more complicated than this. You know, actually, I wonder if this is also available from OpenRouter. Is it only text models or is it also text to speech? No, it's okay. Text to speech. Maybe not. Let's see. Modalities. Text. Don't need this. I would also want to filter by output, but I guess that means there is only one output. Because they also don't have image models here, so I guess that makes sense. They only really support text. That's a shame. Well, there's a business opportunity for someone that wants to do that. Bundle all the different image and audio APIs together. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. Here's OpenAI. And what's the cost? There's no cost mentioned. I'm not going to log in until you tell me. It's no pricing. Okay. Was it here? Am I that blind? Maybe I was just that blind. I didn't see it was right here. Well, that's not bad. Put this as an option. Don't know what the quality of this is, but it's worth a try. So we'll add it as an additional option here. So it's about 2.5 per million. I don't know what the input is, but I'm going to guess it's something very inexpensive. Okay, so that looks pretty attractive compared to GPT, but we haven't checked the quality, so I have no idea. This could be very inexpensive. It also very much trash. I don't know, but we'll see. So we'll have to do some tests. Anyway, this video has gone on long enough, but we did need to do a bit of research at the beginning. This is kind of how I do it. If you already know about web development or just development in general, and you've used some of these technologies, this would probably be 10, 15 minutes for you or less. For me, we've gone on for like half an hour, but this is kind of important as well because we need to figure out what it is that we want to do. This is also another issue that I see, that I ran into and I see other people run into when they get to the vibe coding step. They just write a couple of lines. I want an app that does this and that, and then off it goes, and it will actually generate something that's halfway decent, but it's because you're not giving it enough instruction. It'll just do whatever it thinks makes the most sense, and it'll make a bunch of mistakes, and it'll use technologies that you don't expect or you're not familiar with. It just becomes very difficult to work with or debug. So it's worthwhile, I think, going through this at the very beginning just to figure out what we're doing. And, you also, as you answer some of these questions, you get some ideas about what's possible, what's not, or actually maybe this is cost prohibitive to do. Why are we complicating things so much? So it's definitely worthwhile spending a little bit of time at the very beginning of a new project to do that. So the next step will be putting the spec, and I will do that in another video because it should be its own thing. And this is very important for taking this information, turning it into a plan, and laying it out in a way that I think is reasonable for the AI to then go through. We're going to use that same spec to generate tasks for the AI to follow. And then we just become the project manager at that point, and then jump in when it gets caught in a loop or it starts screwing up the code in a bunch of different and interesting ways. So we'll do that in the next video. We'll jump on this part. So yeah, see you in the next one.